So you have two functions, f and g, and you need to know if they're inverse functions. If you watch my what are inverse functions videos, you may have remembered that we left off by saying f inverse of f of x is always equal to x, and f of f inverse of x is always equal to x, right? Because if two functions are truly inverses of each other, we say that they undo each other. And so both of these should be equal to x. Well, in this situation, I don't have f and f inverse, I have f and g. So we're going to rewrite this in one way. Instead of saying f and f inverse, we're going to say f of g of x has to be equal to x. We're going to say that if this is true and g of f of x is equal to x, then f and g are inverses. So we just have to test this out. Let's go ahead and let's do each one. So if I say f of g of x here, what does that mean? Well, instead of plugging in x here into f of x, I am actually just plugging in g of x. Well, I know what g of x is, but at first I'm just going to write it as g of x. And so f is x minus 5, so it's g of x minus 5. Well, instead of thinking of it as just g of x, I'm going to write in what g of x actually is. And so it's going to be equal to x plus 5 minus 5. What does x plus 5 minus 5 equal? It just equals x. So that's good. That works. But let's try g of f of x. If I do g of f of x, well, g of x is x plus 5. So I'm going to do x plus 5, but instead of x, I'm going to write it as f of x plus 5. And then instead of writing it as f of x, well, I know f of x is x minus 5. So I'm going to plug in x minus 5 for f of x. And so it just stays x minus 5 plus 5. Well, what is x minus 5 plus 5? That's just equal to x. So both of these situations work. So I can say yes, f and g are inverses. Because when I plugged in g into f and f into g, I got back just x. Let's look at another example real quick. If I have f of g of x over here, what happens when I plug in g of x into f? It's normally 3 times x minus 6. Well, but now it's g of x, so I'm just going to write it as g of x. Well, what is g of x? Let's take purple here, and let's say g of x is 2x plus 3. So I'm going to plug in 2x plus 3 here, and I get 3 times 2x plus 3 minus 6. And so when I do the distributive property, I get 6x plus 9 minus 6, which ultimately equals 6x plus 3. And since this is not equal to x, this means f and g are not inverses. So here are a couple simple examples. If you want to see one that's a little bit more difficult, but it's the same exact process, I encourage you to check out the video I'm going to put on the screen right now. And thanks for watching.